Are there any stories you want to share with us?
Yeah, so getting on to that. So here we are. That's all of the grandchildren. That's the back cover. Yeah.
What's on the front cover?
The front cover, well, these are some cartoons that they're drawings. Yeah.
Lovely.
That are actually in the stories themselves. So I thought it'd be nice is one of the stories is in there, which is sort of pervaded through my childhood, is the kestrel. Now,
the kestrel.
The kestrel, or Ken Loach made the film Kes about a boy's affection for a kestrel, and that was some years later. This was when I was about 5 or 6. I went away on a school trip to Whitstable in Kent. And at the end of the trip, on the way home, coach stopped outside the local gift shop and everybody got off to go and buy a little gift of the holiday to take home to parents. I was more attracted to the shop next door, which was a sort of antique stroke junk shop. And I went in, it was very dark and gloomy. And there at the back, I saw there's this stuffed kestrel in a glass cage. And I said, I've got to have that. Asked the man how much it was. He said 5 shillings. I only had half a crown for my, I managed to bargain him, or he just wanted to get rid of it. So the kestrel was almost as big in the case, was almost as big as me, and I struggled out the shop holding it. The teacher there was aghast when I appeared. He said, what are your parents going to think about that? I said, I didn't know. And I took it on the coach and it sat on the seat beside me and got it home. And parents, as predicted, were a bit aghast. We don't want that. And so it stayed in my bedroom. So it was in the glass case for a number of years.
No, don't worry. Yes.
Yeah. So it was in a glass case for a number of years until I thought, this kestrel needs its freedom. So I took it out of the glass case, made a little swing for it, which I attached to the ceiling of my room, put the kestrel, released from its cage, tied it to the swing, attached a bit of string from the swing to the door, so that whenever everybody came into the room, the kestrel would be swinging on its swing. So this was a nice bit of amusement. This went on, this lasted for a little while, but unfortunately, stuffed birds and stuffed animals from Victorian times are in a hermetically sealed glass case for a reason. So this kestrel started drying out, and then feathers started dropping off, bits of stuffing littered on the floor, until the final denouement of the kestrel was somebody came in, the swing swung, and the rest of the remains of the kestrel ended up on the floor. It was all very symbolic about freedom. So,
gosh, how ingenious of you.
Yeah. So yeah. So there's another story from there. Just a sort of a brief one about my first day at school, which was sort of fairly eventful. Again, I had a few. It's probably a reflection of my sort of character. Is that my first day at school, getting there, I was the other side of Victoria Park from the school, so it was about 25-minute walk or so through the park. But I decided
Where did you actually live?
I lived in Hackney.
Okay.
In Victoria. Yeah. I try not to repeat too much from the first talk, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I lived in Hackney, and I went to a school called Parmeters. It was a grammar school at the time. Cycled through the park, got to the school, and there was no obvious place for me to leave the bike. So, but in front of the steps leading up to the grand front door of the school was the notice board with Parmeters emblazoned on it. I thought, oh, that looks okay. So I started padlocking my bike to the school notice board.
Okay.
At that point, a man came up to me and said, what are you doing, boy? And I said, well, I couldn't find anywhere to put the bike, so I'm putting it here. And he said, who told you could bring your bike to school? And I had this vague reminiscence at my interview there with the headmaster. So I said, oh, the headmaster said I could. At this point, he stepped back, almost apoplectic, and said, I am the headmaster. He said, take it away and put it round the side and don't bring it again. And that's
maybe it was a double bluff.
Yeah.
You might have been the odd job bloke.
Yeah. So that was it. So that was my first day, which was quite memorable. Yeah.
Did you stay at that school till you were 18 or what?
Yes, I was. The other bit of transport information with the schools, when I was in the sixth form, and we, with a friend, we found a sort of a 1936 Austin 7 that wasn't working. So we pushed it to the school, put it in the aside at the playground, and kept it there for a while until we were told to remove it. We had to push it all the way to his house in Bethnal Green.
Gosh.
We finally got it going. We thought this was fantastic, and it started chugging away. And a few minutes later, flames from the engine. So that was unfortunate. There was a leak in the petrol pipe, and it started leaking petrol on the hot manifold. So that was all about school.
Did your grandchildren love these stories?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think it put them in a different light for them. Yeah. So that was it. That was school. I mean, I had the other sort of memorable things at school. I was considered an athlete, and I wasn't very good at football. They put me on the wing because I could run fast, but I couldn't control the ball. So I was always there in front of it.
Where did you go after that school?
But after that, then I had an abortive year at Exeter University, where I was hothouse. So I went to school, grammar school early, and then I went to university early, took all the exams early. So, and it all came to fruition, if you like, at my first year at uni, where I had all sorts of things, and
what were you
to be more attractive than lectures.
What were you studying?
I was studying maths. That was my subject. Maths and a subsidiary of psychology, which I was more interested in. So it was the days when you couldn't, they were very reluctant for you to change courses or be flexible. So I was shown the door at that point.
What would you have liked to change to?
Well, I'd probably like to change to psychology as a main subject. Anyway, I think it's, I wasn't ready for university. I think that was the main thing, and other things.
So what did you do next?
Next, then I was sort of odd jobbing for a few years, but mainly with an interesting company called Projection and Display Services, which I sort of mentioned last time, with a couple of adventures there, with being a Dalek and showing a film for showing Yoko Ono's Bottom film. But the other interesting point about I was thinking about sort of my time there, was that I got very involved with projection and light shows. And I had a friend at the time who was at Hornsey College of Art, and it was at the time where there was a band was staying with a lecturer of his at Hornsey College. They were just starting out. They went by the name of Pink Floyd.
Oh gosh.
And this friend, he was involved with helping them with what they wanted to do, which was light shows for their gigs. Which they did. The first one was at Hornsey College. So I was in projection, so I sort of I helped him with this, and that was great fun. We would devise things where they couldn't use computer graphics in those days, but I'd make up slides with the two bits of glass with a gap between them, and put them in the projector, and then put bubble powder, washing up liquid, in it, and then inject coloured inks, so that when it all heated up, then you got the sort of the bubbling effect that appeared on the back of the screen.
Gosh.
Or you put other slides in, say, of faces, and you took out the heat filter from the projector, and then the slide got very hot and then started to melt, and that was another nice effect we developed. So I think that was it. So he was involved.
It sounds very innovative.
Yeah, so that was used all at their first main concert, which was at Alexandra Palace, for these sort of big light shows. But then they went on to other things, Pink Floyd, and I think had no need of these their student buddies.
You didn't stay in touch with them?
No, but it was in a roundabout way. No, because a friend of mine who lives in Brighton had it was many years later, had his cousin was the author Neil Gaiman. And
I know Neil. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know one of his cousins is quite local.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon Barron. Yeah.
Anyway, so he was in Brighton, and Neil came round for dinner and said, "Could he bring a friend?" And the friend he brought was another Brighton resident who happened to be Dave Gilmour of Pink Floyd. So
right, gosh.
The Pink Floyd connection was revived.
Did you stay in touch with Neil and do any illustrations for his books, or?
Oh no, I don't. No, I mean, I've never met him. It was just his cousin. So after that, when we got married, decided I need a proper job and went into computing.
Did that seem rather tame after your student days?
Yeah, a little bit, but I got into it. And then after serving my time in the computer companies, I went into banking and then consultancy. And I think the consultancy side of it was probably the most interesting part of my career. Where I've mentioned that, if I backtrack, during the period between leaving university and starting onto a career, that was a sort of a big traveling. It was 1967, and for a number of reasons that I decided with a friend who was actually the brother of my sister-in-law, who's Danish, that we felt we needed to go to India. That was the thing to do in '67. So we eventually managed it in the summer, and we did.
Which part did you go to?
Well, we travelled overland through Europe and Turkey, Iran, and then into Afghanistan, and then Pakistan, and then India. We met up with his sister in India, who was married to an Indian guy, and spent some time in India, mostly around the Punjab and Delhi and Agra.
Did you think of wanting to stay at all?
No, I think there was too many things back home, back in England for me.
How did you find Afghanistan?
I was going to say, I find it, looking at it now, it's back on it, and with the images and with the Taliban, I find it extremely sad. Because when I was going through, I mean, it's the country, the people there were just so friendly. We'd stop off at places that, we see in the news of being destroyed, and things like Kandahar and Herat, which are small towns, in Kandahar particularly. We'd go through there, and the locals be friendly, invite us into their house, have a meal or have a tea with them and chat. you know, you sit around the fire and.
Were there a lot of other European sort of backpackers doing similar things?
Yeah, well, we were on a coach eventually. So there were a few other people around, but you know, and that was all very welcoming. I think they appreciated some of the currency we brought with as well, but I don't. We weren't buying the friendship. And then you know, spent some time in Kabul. And again, that's, you know, seeing the images of that. I mean, because my recollection, I mean, if you read the book, The Kite Runner.
Yes, very much so.
And that was set around the time, and and the way it describes, you know, the houses above Kabul, where the sort of more wealthy Afghanis live. Yeah, I mean, that was exactly, that took me back. Reading the book took me right back to that time. Because we went to visit some people in.
Did you keep a journal of your travels?
No, I took a lot of photos and things, but I didn't do much writing about it.
Sorry, go on.
No, actually, you know, the Tuesday afternoon talks at Fellowship House. I gave one on that trip.
What were relations like between Pakistan and India in those days?
Not great. I remember when we got the train from Lahore to the Indian border, and then we had to get off the train there and walk to the border, and had to walk across it, and the border guards weren't very friendly with each other, but we walked across, and then and it was in sort of quite a remote country area. I just remember the only way we could get from the Indian border was there was an ox cart which took us to the nearest station. You know, they weren't friendly at all, the border guards facing each other. No. I think there's a reflection.
What about Kashmir? Did you go there?
No, we didn't get to that point. I think we just, as I said, we spent time around in Delhi and Agra, around there, and then up to Simla and Amritsar. It's all been the sort of northwest corner of India. Yeah.
So what's Amritsar like? Are there memorials to all the trouble there?
It's at that time. Well, they're not memorials. I think it's quite a sad time with obviously with the British rule there. I mean, they suffered quite hard with some massacres and things. I think it's the main sort of Sikh area, and it's the big one is it's the Golden Temple out on the lake, the Sikh temple there. So that's the main sort of tourist site.
How did you stay in touch with your parents, or didn't you?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. I mean, I've got a little voice coming back to the side there saying, no, I didn't. No, it's that was the time there was.
What was communication like in those days? Pretty, letters or something?
Yeah, letters really. I mean, I think we didn't see a phone box or anything. So I think when we got to India, I think it's and my friend with his sister, who had lots of relatives back in Denmark, and her sister, my sister-in-law in England, I think they managed a phone call that said they've arrived.
Have you been back since?
No, there's not a place I've been back to. I mean, they lived in Chandigarh, which was a new town that was, the architect was Le Corbusier, and so it was meant to be a startling modern new town in India. A bit of a concrete jungle, but it was just all the way. I mean, it's still there. The contrast between, the sort of the Indian sort of middle class who lived there, and the workers who lived in the mud villages outside.
Enormous contrast, isn't it?
It literally was mud villages with mud piles, mud huts.
I found when I went to Agra, which I just loved, I loved the Taj Mahal, But Agra itself just seemed back in the centuries. I mean, it was, you know, there was no sense of any modernism at all.
No. So when were you there? That was.
When did I go? Oh, it's about 1995, long time ago. I was due to go back, but then COVID came down, and I didn't go. But I loved it, actually. I thought it was wonderful, and I found it very funny seeing all the backpackers, because I could only imagine their mothers were wondering, you know, what they were doing at that point. And I could actually see what they were doing. So it's quite interesting.
Not something you'd write to their parents about, no.
Well, I just. And what about Afghanistan? Not Afghanistan, Ukraine, because you mentioned that you'd been to Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, that was. I was trying to remember the day. I couldn't quite remember the date, but it was probably in the middle 90s, sort of 94, 95, about then. That was the time when I was with a consultancy, and we were doing a lot of work on reform programs in the old communist countries. I worked in Slovenia, Kazakhstan, and other places, and helping, and the World Bank particularly, and the European Union were funding these reform programs, and consultants were going in on the back of that to help them with it. So I was in Ukraine. I didn't for about a week. We were bidding for a job, which we didn't get, but I spent enough time there to get a feel for. We were just in Kiev, or Kyiv as it is now.
What were your impressions?
It was still very much suffering from the sort of communist hangover of being a very dowdy town with not much around, staying in the hotel where there was very poor facilities, couldn't even get a chicken Kiev in the menu.
Oh dear, that's a disaster.
No, but it was very limited food and everything there, and the place was struggling. And I just remember, you know, we had meetings at the central bank and with the governor of the central bank, you know, very senior people in Ukraine. And they were, I wouldn't say impoverished, because there were other Ukrainians in a worse off position to them, but certainly not having a lifestyle you would imagine from the governor of the central bank would have. They would talk about, you know, they all had allotments there because that was the only way they could get enough food to feed themselves, for instance. But you know, they were going through reform, and like a lot of these countries, they started picking themselves up. The economy grew on the basis of having modern reforms and doing more trade with the West. And just seeing Ukraine as it is now and the devastation it's going through, and seeing these places I've been to, but now being, you know, highly modernized, and seeing these places now being blitzed, I just, like many people, I just found it very sad, extremely sad to see that.
And did you visit any Baltic state? One of my grandsons, as we speak, is actually in Latvia, which is apparently swarming with NATO troops. But he says it's a very beautiful country. I don't know. Did you go anywhere else?
No, I haven't been to the Baltic states. But, just over the Baltic Sea from Finland was another place that I went to, but on work experience.
Have you done any other sort of adult adventuring?
Yeah, it's as a boy, one of the books that I read, I've always had this urge to go to Patagonia.
Oh yeah.
And it stemmed from as a sort of 10, 11-year-old, and an avid reader of the Biggles books.
Oh yes.
You know, the airline.
He goes to Patagonia.
Yeah, well, apart after his when he'd finished fighting with the Red Baron in the interwar years, he he became a charter pilot, and there was one book of stories called Biggles Charter Pilot, and he was chartered by this extraordinary doctor scientist who took him all over the world on various adventures. And one of the adventures was to go and seek out the Patagonian giants. And this story really captured my imagination. And for many years, I really wanted to go to Patagonia and seek them out, or just see Patagonia. But it wasn't until I was early 60s that Roz said, "You've got to go." And there was this trip, one of these sort of adventure trips. One of these adventure travel companies were advertising a Patagonia, 3.5 weeks in Patagonia. So I signed up. It was a tremendous trip. I mean, it was just me, and there was only a small group, but we flew into Buenos Aires and then down the Atlantic coast to Tierra del Fuego, and then up through the Pampas up until the Chilean side. I mean, it was a tremendous trip. Saw masses of wildlife, penguins, and hiking in Tierra del Fuego was extraordinary. I mean, that was, going through the forests, and there was this thumping sound like a concrete sledgehammer. And there was this giant woodpecker in the tree.
Gosh.
Almost trying to bring it down. I mean,
is it the Arctic or the Antarctic where Patagonia?
It's the Antarctic.
Yeah. Did you go there at all?
No, we stayed at Ushuaia, which is the sort of the main port where all the Antarctic boats leave from. But we stayed there, and then there were sort of islands in the Magellan Strait, which is the bit that goes across it, would save you going around the Cape Horn. And so that was the hiking there.
When I was there, I was told that either Bonnie or Clyde or both hid out there in Patagonia after their career as bank robbers. I don't know which one. I tend to think it was Clyde, but maybe not.
No, didn't come across them.
A big place to hide out. I think they caught him eventually, but
no, it is a big place. It's far larger than one would imagine. It straddles the two countries of Chile and Argentina. But there's sort of a glacier trek in the.
It's on the same latitude as New Zealand.
Yeah.
So the glaciers are the same. On that same level.
Except at some stage, don't know now, but when we were there, the glaciers were expanding rather than retreating.
So did Roz go with you?
No, that was just me.
Right.
She allowed me my freedom. No, but there was a lot of quite strenuous hiking, I have to say. We just up into the Andes mountains, the foothills and stuff like that.
Did you go further north than Buenos Aires? Did you up near the Amazon or anything?
No, we didn't get that. So maybe another trip on that.
Where do you like to holiday? I know you probably go to Australia. Do you see your family?
Yeah, well, when we can, we've done many trips to Australia and seen. We've never been to the West Coast, but we've done quite a lot in the East Coast down there.
What about New Zealand?
And then, and we spent sort of a month in New Zealand. We had got a motorhome and traveling around, but we loved the South Island so much we never got off it. So that was tremendous, lovely there, seeing.
Where do you still want to go?
Where do we still want to go? Good question. I think we've done a lot of big sort of road trips in our time, but like around New Zealand, the Great Ocean Road in Australia. We did a big drive in when Israel still held the Sinai, in terms of driving down there, down to the deep south of Ras Makharid, past Sharm el Sheikh, and that was a tremendous drive. We've done sort of Highway 1 in the States, and the sort of.
Did you go to Petra when you were in Sharm el Sheikh?
No, Petra was sort of, well, be the other end of Sinai.
Yes,
that's near. And then Canada through the Rockies and up to Alaska. So there's lots of big drives that we've done. But I think probably looking for a more relaxed style of holiday now. But so in terms of places, I think Italy, I think just places like that.
Are any of your sculptures influenced by your travels?
Good question. I mean, my first sculpture was a unicorn, so I can't claim to that. Seeing that, no, my current sculpture is a kangaroo, so it may be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a commission for somebody whose granddaughter fell in love with a baby kangaroo and wanted one for her birthday coming up. So. Yeah.
Do you get any advice on it? I mean, how did you approach it's very individual, your type of sculpting, isn't it? Wire meshing and.
Yeah, well, there's, I'm not alone. There is a sort of a whole
colony of
chicken wire artists, sculptors. No, I find it a very sort of malleable medium. When I can, you create it and then it's flexible, so I can mold it into shape and bend an arm or a leg or whatever into a position.
So you don't establish a basic shape in clay or anything like that?
No, not at all. No, I just I tend to work from photos and just look at the photos and get a rough idea of dimensions from it, and then think about the scale that I want to do it, or sort of if it half scale, life size, or third, or whatever. And then get the dimensions, and then make up a rough base model in a rough frame in a very sort of coarse mesh, and then wrap further mesh around it in finer detail, so it starts having some strength and resilience. And then once. And
what happens to the core mesh that you're using? Do you leave that inside?
Yeah, leave it in because it's layered.
Right.
So the thing is hollow, but it's got strength. It can be self-supporting, but then you can then bend it, as it were, into shape. So it's I find it a good medium to work with, and created many different things from rabbits to herons to flamingos to crocodiles.
Do you paint it?
Yeah, as well. Well, most times I do. It's and I work in bark. But I'll show you something. 1 second. Here we are. This is an indoor sculpture as opposed to an outdoor one.
Oh my goodness! Right.
Yeah, so it gives you an idea. Now this was whoops, that's not that part of it. This is based on the Picasso painting of Old Man with Guitar.
Yes.
And this is something I quite like. I've done quite a few where I've taken a painting, a two-dimensional object, and turned it into a sculpture. So I looked at the painting and then looked at the shape and devised it.
And what wood is that? What wood?
So then I used bark to make the guitar, and then this is the sort of all the chicken wire. You can see I've sort of bent it into, molded it into shape. It's quite flexible. You can get the dynamic of the arm now, and the hands. And then you asked about painting, and then I just spray painted it the Picasso glue.
And do you use anything that sort of stiffens it up? I mean, any sort of, I don't know, I've lost you now, can't see you.
Yeah, I'm still here.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you use anything to make it less flexible, if you like, so that it's more durable?
Well, they're all durable. I mean, but the larger ones, which need support, like, I mean, people have seen the Farmwalk Tennis Club.
Yeah,
the tennis player there. Well, she, you know, I have had to put some quite steel rods inside it, so to support the frame and to make it make her stand up and everything. So yeah, so when necessary, I use steel rods to strengthen it and make it self-supporting. But as far as much, I try and conceal them within the body of it, so it's not too obvious.
And are they weatherproof? I mean, is that one outside, the tennis one?
Yes. Oh yeah. All the garden sculptures are weatherproof. Use the wire mesh is galvanized wire, so it won't rust, and the paint, acrylic paint, is waterproof and things. And also varnish them. So. Yeah.
Would you ever consider combining, you know, I'm just thinking of Picasso-like material with it, or, you know, something, always wood, you know, would you progress from wood to other media?
Well, yes, well, I have done. I mean, I use material, so the tennis player has a dress. Yeah, that's where I use my my hereditary tailoring skills,
right,
and made a dress for her. And yeah, but the materials that I've moved on to really are these acetate sheets, where I do the.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I use acetate sheets to make stained glass windows. So that's and I paint them in acrylic paint. So I've been enjoying that, doing that. I don't know whether I can show that on the screen. I should have done a Mike Jacobs and had lots of pictures, but to show you. But if you bear with, it's coming. So.
Oh, look at that.
So this is my Matisse arch in the garden. So what they're acetate sheets painted with acrylic paint. And so the outside panels are based on Matisse's stained glass windows in the chapel in Vence in the south of France. And the panels down the center are based on his jazz series. So
they look marvelous with the light coming through.
Yeah, it does. It does. So yeah. So I've got a commission. I'm working on an arch for somebody. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Yeah. So,
what about an exhibition of your work?
Well, people have said to me have an open garden. So I'm probably in the summer. You know, sort of COVID permitting, I'm sure, but I'm sure it will have an open garden. Rosie's involved with North London Hospice fundraising and chair of the support committee. So, you know, be in aid of North London Hospice. Details closer to the time. Yeah.
Is there anything else, do you feel, any other art form or creative way that you've still got, you know, ahead of you?
Well, I'm sort of developing the sculpting. I mean, I always sort of progress that and move into try and use new things and new materials just as a challenge. You know, there's the one I was working on at the moment with the kangaroo and the little and the girl herself. And but doing it in chicken wire, just the face was a bit didn't work. So I've decided I used a different sort of mesh, an aluminium mesh, which is very fine, so so you can't see it. So and that required a very different way of working. So I like those sort of challenges. So working in and also this the stained glass stuff or the stained acetate stuff, I want to take further. I started working on some panels for the garden and stuff. So that's interesting. And also, on the writing sphere, then you know, my sort of poetry continues, and most of the focus is on sort of poetry from art.
Do you join any groups that give you support and inspiration? Were you part of the poetry group? I think.
Yeah, I'm part of the U3A poetry group. Yeah, that's got and the creative writing group in U3A. So yeah, it's the creative writing group at U3A has got is very interesting now, because that for the last few sessions we've actually had a tutor who's been very good and tasked us with the things. So what she's got me to do was actually, when I say write poems, it's not just the poem, but just ask me to write about how I go about writing a poem, and that proved quite challenging and interesting. So.
And how do you go about writing a poem?
I sit back and think. No, it's given sort of I write mostly about art. It becomes a sort of quite an intuitive and instinctive reaction to it. But it's got to be something that looks at it. So when I see the painting or whatever it is that interests me, it generates a narrative in terms of, yeah. So there's a story there that I want to tell through the poem, and then so that then becomes the thought, and usually after getting that sort of moment of inspiration from it, then it becomes I usually write quite quickly and can get a first draft down.
Do you do any further research on it, on the topic you're writing about?
Well, I do when necessary. I mean, you know, the Paul Orrego exhibition, I saw that at the Tate. I was very taken by that. And the thing that I wanted to write about, there was one room called Possession, which were 7 images of a person on an analyst's couch. And Paula Orrego herself has had a lot of, she's very open about her mental issues and problems. And it was actually the analyst's couch that, you know, she'd been on of her analyst, and her model lay on that. And it was interesting because I felt there were 7 pictures, 7 paintings in it, and it reflected, in my mind, the 7 stages of therapy leading from, leading up to the combination, not of cures per se, but of feeling better about yourself. So the research that I did was actually into those, the 7 stages, and trying to reflect it back on the bodily stance of the model, and how that interacted with it. So so I do, when necessary, look into things just to develop it further.
Is anyone else in your family inclined? I mean, have you got siblings? Have you?
Yeah, I've got my brother. He's a writer. He was a journalist, mostly a motoring journalist, and has written motoring books as well. But I'll give him a quick plug. He's a photographer, and he has the current exhibition at Fellowship House is of his Merchant Navy photographs.
How lovely.
He was in the Merchant Navy in the 1950s. So these are photographs from his Merchant Navy travels of New York, South America, South Africa, the Caribbean.
Was he called up? Was he in the Navy because he was called up, or?
The reverse.
The reverse. He ran away to sea.
He did. He literally ran away to sea at the age of 16. Was told that if he went in the Merchant Navy, then you could escape conscription. But unfortunately for him, he ran away from the Navy after too short a time. So he got 2 years in the Air Force anyway.
Oh, really? It didn't work.
It didn't quite work. But being my brother, he spent his time in his conscription. He was he trained as a nurse in the Air Force.
Yeah. Sorry.
Spent his time at the Air Force Hospital in Goodge Street in central London.
Right.
And lived at home at the time. And so he could then still go down to Soho and meet all his old mates.
Right. Did either of your parents have any of this very exploratory gene that you and he seem to have?
Not that I'm aware of. Father was my mother was a sort of dressmaker and tailoress, and father was a tailor.
Your father was a sailor?
A tailor as well.
Oh, tailor, not a sailor. Okay.
He sewed my new blue jeans. No, to quote the song. No, as far as I know, they didn't have it.
If you, looking back on your life, if you could pick up one strand of all the things you've done, which one would you pick up on?
I don't know. It's life is a journey, and it's been a path it's taken me. I mean, what strand can I say? Because they've all been part of my development in a way. It'd be difficult to isolate one of them. I think.
I mean, do you feel if you'd started sculpting at a young age, gone to art school and all that, you could have taken it in a different direction or further or anything like that?
Possibly. I think it's but I think everything, well, for me, it's doors open at particular times and particular things happen. And you take, when the door opens, you go there. I'm a bit of a fatalist in that sense. So it's at points of time. The sculpture happened at a particular point in time. Sort of work, doing things happened at particular points in time.
Are either of your children adventurous like you?
I think my daughter was a bit. I mean, and seems that she went in her gap year, sort of traveling around Africa, and her work is, and I mean, with her work, is taking her to quite adventurous
what does she
places
do?
Like. She works in television and making sort of science documentaries and factual documentaries. So in the early stages of her career, when she made programs about dinosaurs, so she went dinosaur hunting around the world, well, particularly in the Amazon and Alaska and Texas. But that was quite an adventurous time for her.
And what about your son?
The son, a bit less so, but I think he went straight from school, university to a job. And got to the age of 25, and he thought, well, everybody does traveling. If I don't do it now, I'm not going to. So he resigned from his job and said, you know, I'm going off, and he went off to China and the Far East, the usual backpacker places, and then ended up in Australia, had a work permit, you know, temporary work in Australia for a year. And that was it. Met the love of his life there. And hence we have Australian grandchildren.
Oh. That's quite exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. He met the girl and asked her to marry him within 10 days. So that was a very
okay.
So that was an adventure for him. Yes.
We've only got a few minutes left, I think. I just wonder if anybody that's watching would like to say anything. Are you dusting your screen now?
Change the view.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody wanted.
I was fascinated right from the start till now. Thanks so much, Michael. Particularly about your travels, because you've covered ground that I've also traveled through. I wondered if you'd ever traveled up to the Arctic.
No.
That is very interesting, because you visit far more of the small communities, which you don't when you're in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And that some of them are still very, very very much the Eskimos, you know, and the others are, like in Greenland, for instance, they're very sophisticated. So if you ever get the urge, I would suggest you go up there.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably when Eleanor asked about a place to go, I think Norway and north of there would be of interest. Oh, the other place I would always wanted to go to was Iceland.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and Finland, of course, you mentioned that.
Yeah, that was just a work visit. Yes.
Have you read Miss Miller's Feeling for Snow? Because that's about Greenland and Denmark.
Yeah.
And I really felt I'd love to go to Greenland after reading that. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Have you been to Greenland? Did you say, Madeleine?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that is really quite sophisticated. And landing up in Greenland, having spent some time going around the Canadian Arctic and further up, you had you couldn't use your mobile phone or something. The moment you get to Greenland, everything works. I think Denmark's put a lot of money in there.
Yes.
And they are a completely different type of people. So. Anyway, forgive me, I've got to go off now, but thanks so much, Michael. I really...
Okay, welcome. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Michael. That was a lovely return.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gosh,
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I feel quite dull compared to you.
Thanks a lot, but I enjoyed what I did here. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got a wonderful photo, Valerie, of flowers behind. Where's that from? Your garden?
Here's my front garden last spring.
Gosh,
With a bit of luck, they'll come up again this spring.
How beautiful is that? Lovely.
Yeah, Mike showed me how to make the screen there.
Right.
Background, yes.
Anyway, thank you very, very much, Michael, and it's been a real treat to have 2 hours of hearing about your life, and that has been great. So thank you very much. And for anyone who's missed that, you know, it is, I've recorded it, Neng's recorded it. I think you're well done for posterity this time round. So.
Okay,
thanks very much indeed.
Okay, thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
Bye.